Alright, hey guys, and welcome. It's time to talk about Glass Onion. Well, looks like no one really knows how to take murder mysteries anymore, because this was a pretty bad one. Like, this was really, really bad. It really looks like the skill of a murder mystery is just not there anymore. Like, no one knows what makes it intriguing, what makes it unique. I sometimes I wish that I never watched Christopher Nolan movies, now that I think about it, because it makes me feel like those movies were so intelligent that it just makes these movies feel like an absolute disaster and dumpster fire, to be fair, because there is no value or anything to learn from how the twists and turns and creativity take place in this film. Now, to start off, Knives Out is basically a story where there's this group of friends, and they've been given this wooden box to solve. It has a bunch of unique puzzles inside. So the box is sent by Miles Braun to his friends Buddy J, Duke Cody, and Claire, Lionel, no, not Peg, um, and Andy. Yeah, basically it's sent to these top six people here. Jessica is actually working for Birdie, so she's not really one of the people who received the box. Although I can't remember now that I think about it, but I think she's not one of the people who received the box. And so these group of friends are the ones who actually receive the box, and they try to solve the puzzle. So they call each other up on a group call, and they try to solve it together. So it's kind of interesting the way the pace of the and the tone of the story when it opened up. I really thought this gonna be a really cool puzzle solving mystery with lots of puzzles throughout the story. There's probably gonna be like some psychopath. Like I thought this Miles Braun is gonna be just this psychopath who's just calling these people to the island and giving them a bunch of puzzles, and he actually wants them to solve his actual murder, and so he's already really dead. But turns out no, he's actually alive, and he just wants to call them over for some dinner party where he wants to just make fun of them. And I kind of had the idea that looking at the way all of these people had some what do you call this, agenda and thing to kill Miles, like everyone had something secretly against Miles. I kind of already guessed that Miles would be the one who invited them over to actually get rid of them, because he knows they're all a threat to him and a liability to the knowledge he has and the way he has brought or built his billionaire empire, which is by a lot of lies and what do you call this, stealing an idea of the person Andy Brand. So Andy Brand turns out, is, I mean, like it's almost too scripted, because if you look at everyone else, the only black woman in the group is Andy Brand. And honestly, not to be racist, because I can't be racist. I've been affected by racism all my life as well. I'm technically the minority where I live, so I trust me, I know what racism is like. But it's just so obvious that when you have the one black woman in the group, that she's most likely gonna be the protagonist of the story, because it's quite clearly some kind of diverse cast that they try to pull off here, and also trying to poke and prod into the concept of even men's rights, which is what Duke Cody is, a celebrity that he stands up for men's rights. He's like a YouTuber or something. Claire is doing her own business and something like that. Peg is assisting Birdie, who's like a huge celebrity, who's a politician apparently, and then sorry, wait. Oh, Claire is a politician. Birdie is like some model or celebrity or actress or whatever crap. And Lionel is running the what do you call this? The company, the corporate side. And all of these people are basically in some way related to Miles Braun's idea, which was an idea that Andy Brand came up with initially. And so Miles Braun builds an empire, billion-dollar empire, and he's actually obsessed with this new technology, which is solid hydrogen fuel. And so Andy Brand pulled out from the business when she realized that Miles is into this solid hydrogen fuel, because she believes it's too dangerous, and everyone else in the team is sort of skeptical about it because it feels like it's an extremely dangerous source of fuel, even though it seems like it might be a way to solve the what do you call this? What do you call this? The idea that this solid hydrogen fuel might actually help everyone, in the world and whatever. Reduce the use of other fossil fuels and what's not. They still feel it's dangerous. Okay, so that's basically it. The only other person who surprisingly is informed at the start of the film that he receives a box, Benoit Blanc, goes to visit and join this crew, and he tells Miles Brown that he actually received a box, but Miles knows that he never sent a box to him, and so something else fishy is going on. But they don't really show that Miles knows this. They try to keep, us in the dark as though Miles is like, oh, he's actually the guy who's innocent and he's so afraid that every one of these people will kill him, and so he invites them all to an island to just play a game to try to make it up, then meet old friends. I mean, it's all absolute bullshit. I mean, I kind of guessed from the beginning that Miles is obviously the villain in this story. So I wanted to know what, is there something more to it? And so the story has a twist in the sense where the only real good twist in the story is the part where Andy actually did in fact receive the box, but she died. She was murdered after shortly after receiving the box. And so the one who comes in the place of Andy to this island, this private island that Miles has, where he wants everyone to solve the murder mystery, is actually Andy's twin sister, Helen or something. I think her name is Helen Brand or something like that. And so Helen shows up with Benoit Blanc, and Benoit Blanc actually pretends like he received a box when in fact he is working together with Helen to try to solve the mystery of her sister Andy's death. And so it's already very strange because Benoit Blanc saying that he's the world's greatest detective, is able to solve all kinds of unique puzzles and whatever, doesn't really have any communication with the outside world. He has no team that he's working with, no actual crew that he uses, no communication method that he uses to get information out of the island. It's really strange because yes, I know you're in a remote island. I know signal's really hard to get, but there's so many ways to create a radio device to try to get a call or information out from wherever you are. And so, yeah, I found it really weird that all of a sudden Benoit Blanc is, he's just there on the island stuck and in trouble like the rest of them, and he's at risk the same way as the rest of them. And so this whole murder mystery party that Miles organizes apparently is solved in 2 minutes of just the simple theorizing by Benoit Blanc. He just theorizes that, oh, the murderer has to be Birdie. This is a pretend part. This is not the real murder. It's the pretend murder. Where he says the old murderer has to be Birdie because there's like a crossbow and it's going to shoot Miles. And after theorizing this, it's like, am I right? And so the crossbow actually shoots Miles, and because apparently the crossbow is called a Mockingjay or something, so Buddy J is the murderer, whatever bullshit. So after that, Miles pretends to be super sad that Benoit actually solves the mystery so quickly, and then the real murder takes place, right? So this is where the actual so-called twist of the story is, and so the real murder takes place, which is where Duke dies, at which point, Miles says that, oh, Duke actually took my glass, and so the murderer actually wanted to kill me, but the poison went to Duke because he accidentally took my glass and he drank the drink out of it. But I mean, I kind of understood that it's just possible Miles just switched the glasses while he was sitting down. And it's exactly what happens. Later on in the story, they show that Miles didn't actually put his glass next to Duke and Duke accidentally took it. Instead, he actually gave Duke his own glass and Duke actually picked it up, and that's how Duke died. So, yeah, super predictable, nothing unusual here, no real mystery. As I said, the only real twist is that the twin sister comes in the place of Andy, but it's really weird because the celebrity is dead. The what do you call this? Mortuary actually has received the body and they would have done the autopsy, the mortuary would know that the sister died of poisoning. And so, like Helen would already have the information that the sister was murdered and didn't commit suicide. But let's say, they say the sister drank poison by herself. Uh, that's fine. That's one way to theorize it. So Helen believes that the sister didn't commit suicide because there was no suicide note. Instead, there was this email that the sister was sending out, which has a letter that threatens the reputation of Miles Braun. And so, once again, for me, it's just so obvious that Miles is the one that wants to get rid of everyone because they are all some sort of a liability. But his main target is Andy, and he wants to frame her for the murder of possibly Duke Cody or something like that, just to get rid of her and keep whoever he can remaining. But if, I feel that if any of the others were still a threat, he would just get rid of them to protect his reputation. He just needs a bunch of witnesses to sit for him and agree that Andy is the one that's doing something. So he just wants to get rid of Andy or whatever is in the place of Andy, in this case, Helen. So eventually, there is a moment where the lights go out within the building, and there's a gunshot. Andy actually gets shot. and turns out that no one knows who the shooter is. Eventually, it's revealed that it is Miles once again. So big surprise! It is Miles doing everything. He's the guy. He's the billionaire running the entire island, who invites everyone there with his mystery boxes. And why would he not be the psycho, right? So yeah, it's so straightforward. And towards the ending, there's this huge twist, like not twist, but this huge epic moment where, Miles is revealed to be the killer, but he's like, so what? You got no proof that you got no evidence that I am the killer, and so what do you call this? Helen shows up and says, "Hey, I'm actually not dead, and I found the envelope that Andy was threatening you with, and you've been keeping the envelope within your room, like beside your desk the whole time. I found it, and I've proved that what do you call this? Inside there is apparently a tissue paper which has the idea written by Andy, the original idea that Miles stole, and Miles said that he was the one who wrote out the idea. But Helen says that but one thing that this tissue has that yours doesn't is that it has the name of the bar, Glass Onion, and it proves that it is the original because the Glass Onion closed like what 17 years ago, something like that. So your tissue doesn't have that print. And so Miles just takes a lighter and lights it up and it's gone. And it's like, yeah, so now what proof do you have? I was like, oh God, how stupid could you be? Because it's literally a tissue paper. Like you have to protect that thing with your life if that's your only evidence in court. And this girl just waves the tissue around like some psycho, and then he just lights it up in fire and it's gone, and there's no proof after that. And then what happens is that he just starts knocking down all the glass in the building, and then sets the place on fire. And he's like, "Yeah, just stop it. If the sprinklers are going to come on, just please stop whatever you're doing." And eventually, she takes a little piece of hydrogen fuel that Benoit gives her because Benoit says that we can't seem to solve this in the legal means because we really have no evidence. So just do whatever you want with the hydrogen fuel. She throws the hydrogen fuel into the fire. It gets sucked up into the air vents, and the entire glass onion explodes. And guess what? No one is harmed. Not a single person is harmed in the explosion of an entire building. It literally goes boom, the glass onion just shatters, and not a single person is harmed. I would have expected, even if you don't get killed by the explosion or the fire, you would just die from the glass pieces that would just be, like freaking flying everywhere, like some like some nail bomb or something, and everyone would have just died from it. But no, everyone is not dead. And it's at that point I stopped taking the movie seriously at all and just decided this is just a stupid movie, an absolute waste of my time. I think that Glass Onion is once again another good example of a bad movie that came out. And I'm glad it was in 2022 because I really hope 2023 just starts a clean slate for me. And I just want to stop watching these absolutely horrible movies. And honestly, the first Knives Out is a good movie. Knives Out is a really good movie. And I think that I rated it a 6 out of 10 because honestly, for me, it wasn't that great. It's nothing that special. But it did have a decent twist, a decent cast, and an interesting story. So I think that Knives Out, I'd rather just rewatch it. And Glass Onion, I think it can go to the trash bin. I'm just gonna rate it a 2 star. It's such a stupid film. The ending is even more stupid because it feels like the writers just did not know how to end the film itself, and they just try to come up with this, oh, let's just blow the place up and make it like so epic like that. And what about the people inside? What about the explosions, sir? Oh, they'll be fine. It doesn't affect them. Explosions only affect buildings. They don't affect human beings. I mean, come on, are you stupid or something? Yeah, I really think that's what the conversation went like. That's literally what the conversation would have gone like. And yeah, obviously the black woman minority is going to be the hero of the story, and the typical white guy is going to be the villain. I think everything else is quite straightforward. Yes, you have a diverse cast. You have Daniel Craig, who's unfortunately forced to play the stupidest role in the story because I don't know, like, what was his purpose in the story? Like, reading out to Miles Braun what his idea was by stating the obvious, the fact that everyone invited to the island has an agenda against him, but Miles just wants to reaffirm their sort of uh, trust for him because he's like a billionaire. Everyone's doing it for the money in the first place. They already watched for him in court previously when Andy stood up for the fact that Miles stole her idea. So this time Helen showing up is just a way for Miles to just make sure there's nothing left of anything that looks like Andy, and that's basically it. So how Helen survives the gunshot, if you guys are wondering, on the island itself is apparently there's a book and it blocks the bullet. It takes the impact of the bullet. Somehow it's a diary that Andy is writing, I mean, I don't know. It's just too straightforward. Like, of course, the girl has a diary for everything that happens in her life, which is a great way for her sister Helen to read up on everything and get to know everything that Helen's been doing. It's almost like Miles could have just prepared for everything because after killing Andy, he could have just stolen all her diaries and wiped everything in the house as well. But he chose not to do that, because he wanted to make it look really, really like a suicide. But everything in the diaries, everything, all the information that are left in her email, which his sister checked, like all the information of what Andy has been doing, which is trying to get at Miles, is all readily available. And anyone, not just his sister Helen, any investigator could have got that, right? Because you can check outgoing emails from a person. It's super easy to do that as an investigator. So I don't know why an investigator would rule it out as suicide when you obviously have all these emails, all these writings, all these diaries and stuff that all point towards Miles Braun. And if it can be solved by her sister, like it didn't need Benoit Blanc to solve all those information. Her sister Helen already showed up telling Benoit that this is obviously something that Andy had against Miles, knowing the case that it existed, knowing all the information I have, the email that she sent out to threaten Miles. It's so obvious that Andy has a thing against Miles, and Miles would obviously want to kill Andy. Like the motive is just so obvious from the start. Like I really don't want to waste my time on this any further. But yeah, my suggestion to you, don't waste your time on watching Glass Onion. You'd rather watch something awesome that came out in 2022, like The Outfit, perhaps, and just rewatch Knives Out because that was actually a good film. But yeah, whoever's doing the writing for this, Rian Johnson. I don't know. He wrote the first one and he completely screwed up the second one. I have a feeling that there's something seriously happening like behind the scenes in terms of the way the production is done. There's like some change in the way the uh, writing has taken place, and I don't know what really changed it, but I'm really really curious. Let me see if we can find something. Okay, just reading the context of the writing here that's informed in Wikipedia for Glass Onion, we can already see that there's some other weird things going on. So apparently he wrote Glass Onion in 2020 during the COVID-19 lockdown. His writing began the premise that he wanted to write a whodunit vacation mystery, and then Johnson made it clear that Glass Onion was not a continuation. So it's a new story and cast. In addition to Christie novels, he took inspiration from Tropic Getaway murder mysteries like film adaptation of Christie's Evil Under the Sun, blah blah. It begins with him sending an invitation to them come play murder mystery on this exotic island. Essential how Glass Onion begins. Johnson wanted the film to title refer to something hidden in plain sight. He chose Glass because it's clear. Search his phone for songs with a word. He chose Glass Onion by the Beatles. Song is featured in the end credits. The character of Benoit Blanc was revealed as gay in the film. Who cares? Johnson said this did not feel like a big decision, felt very natural in depicting Blanc's home life. Who cares? Who cares if they're gay or straight? Who cares if they're gay or straight? This is clear unnecessary waste of time agenda to add to a film. And I think it's so clear as to why. It's glass clear as to why this film is bad. I think there's something seriously screwed up in the way they wanted to come up with this film. And that's what really affects it. Yeah. Knives Out was just hands down better. Like I see no reason as to why this was done any different to the way the format Knives Out was done. Like they already had a great thing going. They should have just stuck to it. Um, but yeah, they came up with their own bullshit and destroyed the film. This is the only article I could see regarding bad fighting. This is by Film Colossus. It's an interesting article here. Maybe one of the worst written movies I've ever seen. Don't get me wrong, the cast goes for it. I agree, the cast was great. All of them were really fun and really nice to see. And the facial expressions, micro expressions, and all of that, I think it's decent. And you have such a great actor like Daniel Craig in there. I don't see why they should have used him in such a horrible manner. They could have just done it so much better. And if they really don't care about the continuation, they could have just let him keep the British accent because his American accent was just all over the place. Honestly, it was really like someone was forced to do the American accent, or rather South American accent, if I'm not mistaken. Um, yeah, yeah, it's just dumb. The flashbacks and whatever, the whole flashback sequence was too long to explain the whole plot because it really felt like they were telling a whole new story and telling you forget about everything you saw because you really had to listen to my whole other story to be added and give you context because the original story just wasn't written well enough. And that's really what it felt like. It's like they're giving the flashback because they really want to. exponentially show you that there's so much what do you call this justification they have to make on top of the original plot, because the original plot is just not good enough to make you figure out what's really happening. And that's the difference between a good and bad mystery movie. In a good mystery movie, the original plot itself is great. It already tells you that there's so much information for you to take in that the only reason you would not be able to solve it is if you don't put two and two together. But needing to give a whole other story in a whole separate explanation is nice to give little bits and pieces to just point out to you the things that you may have missed. But instead, adding a whole other story and giving you a whole other flashback to tell you that, oh no, actually, this girl was a twin sister. And this is the reason we wanted to do the plot all over again and show you all the in between parts that were missed out because the original plot is just not good enough, not giving you enough. But yeah, anyway, that's it from me for this one. I absolutely hated this movie. It's terrible. But yeah, that's it from me, guys. I'm gonna be as honest as possible. If you guys like, like this film or you think this film is great, that's good for you. I'm happy for you. Honestly, I like the original Knives Out, and I was really hoping for something good out of this one. The original Knives Out for me is not a very good mystery movie. To be fair, there's so many other better mystery movies out there. This is a 6 out of 10, but for me at least, But it's okay. It's not the worst thing. But Glass Onion, man, this was really, really bad. Uh, so yeah, gonna go and chop some onions and cry in one corner because it is a really, really bad day to watch and review this film. So yeah, see you guys. Take care.